Good evening. We pick up where we left off last time, where, if memory serves, I was looking for the next pillar for the pure heart. And I've got vanishingly little idea of where that might be, so never mind. Ah, I am surprised you are finding me. I am called Welderberg. I am the Iron Man of the forging of pipes. Have you ever thought, it is taking so long to get around town? Yeah, me too. And so it is my life's work to make the pipes for the transportation. I have inspected here, yeah? I am thinking I can make the pipe to Flipside Tower's base. What do you think of this? You are covering costs of materials and labor, yeah? I could make such a pipe. You are looking not very rich. How is 100 coins? Are we having the deal? Sure. This is the good thing, yeah? I am getting started. I am getting started. You are staying out of the way. Pardon me. I apologize. If only all construction was this expedient. This pipe is open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You are using it whenever, yeah? Life is short, so it is smart to take the direct way, yeah? You spent with the wisdom. Well, I am going. Well, that certainly is my wisdom. Go in a straight line, directly towards your goal. Exactly. Not always the fastest, but definitely the most direct. Now, that said, if anybody knows where the pillar is, I'm not actually all that invested in finding it myself. I would welcome any hints, or just telling me where it is. Like, I presume that I need to use either Thudley or Carrie. I almost called her Charlie. The outskirts, you think? Thudley, yes. Alright. Now I just need to find the outskirts. Side 3D path on the previous screen. Gotcha. I thought the outskirts was the bit that was like behind the gate and like the bottom. And can I sign these with Thudley or something? Yeah, I don't know if I ever would have come here. I presume that it's a puzzle. And I presume that they correspond to the stuff on the other side, so it probably looks something like this. presume that that's a hint. Oh, wait, hold on. So this one must be down. This one must be up. This one must be down. And this one must be up. Yes, presumably the last one wanted to be down. There's still more than half the game left. Oh well. It's not that I dislike this game, it's just that I also don't like it all that much. I can't help but compare it to 64 and Thousand Year Door, and it just doesn't really hold up, I'm sorry. Through the fierce battle against Francis, Tippy and the Mario gang grew closer. Behind a fourth door lay a whole new world that beckoned to them both. What awaited was vaster and stranger than anything they'd encountered so far. In order to claim the pure heart, they would have to endure new far-out trials. Into outer space. The last bastion uncorrupted by capitalism. Stars everywhere. I believe we're in outer space, almost certainly.
What?
Mario, there's no gravity in space. What troubles you, Mario? Ah, yes, of course. We seem to be lacking air. You need that, don't you? Oh gracious me, what am I to do? Well, let me see. Then, well, so, no! Hey, please wake up. I call shenanigans. Super Mario Galaxy is a thing. Mario does not need any sort of apparatus to breathe in space. You're alright, aren't you? Oh, thank goodness. I don't really know how I got us all out of there. It just sort of happened. We want less out there as we are. Perhaps we should ask Mirlan's advice. Paper Mario's a different entity, then he should have even less reason to need air. He's closer to a construct than a creature. A golem, not a man. Also, sure, yes, he was fine on the moon, 1,000 Year Door, to the point where I was like, what if we just broke the fucking atmospheric bubble that the Exnauts were using and just suffocated them all? Anyway. Oh, that was certainly quick work. You've already found the next pure heart? No, Merlon. That door led us straight into outer space. Space? Oh, I imagine that was an unwelcome surprise. Yes, there was no air, so Mario and his friends couldn't breathe. What do we do? Well, if you had a space helmet, you'd be alright, I imagine. And you have one? Of course I don't have one, but I imagine that even something like a space helmet would suffice. NASA's a bunch of nerds. And I just so happen to... Oh, blast it. What now? Oh, double blast it all. I cleaned out my shelves the other day. Yes, I had the perfect thing, but I was making space and I gave it to somebody in town. To who? Oh, just some random boy. It seemed more convenient than recycling it. You must find that boy and explain the situation, get it back from him. Find the kid, kill him, take the helmet. Got it. I heard an awful rumor that at this rate, Flipside will soon disappear into nothing. It isn't true, is it? Well, I'll be fine, won't we? After all, this town is such a wonderful place. Ah, this town's so peaceful. If you ask me, that's all you can really ask out of life. The peace might be getting a little old. I kinda wish something wild would happen. Like, say, just for example, a giant squid thing attack, or a duel with a huge turtle. Oh boy, would that be cool. Too bad plot twists like that are completely impossible. Get dueled, nerd. Victory for Bowser. Hey, you here? Word is if that hole in the sky keeps getting bigger, we're through. Man, please, no way, huh? I mean, come on, right? I don't believe it. Oh, mama, did I get some interesting info from a buddy of mine? He swore me to secrecy, but you have the can keep quiet, so I'll tell you. And now I blow your mind. Jump on a Koopa to reduce it to just its shell. About that? Did you hear me? That's some sweet info, huh? Keep it under your hat. I got the same card again. My luck really stinks today. Why can't I get some more rare cards? Why? Why? I never get any. We should really put more of those in these packs. Hey, Grandma. Luna doesn't get to work to Moonbase for oxygen, but Mario was fine before he went into the Moonbase. Hey, Grandma, what do I need to do to live as long as you? Oh, that's simple, my dear. Don't be a picky eater. You have to have a varied diet. Perfect. I eat from all the candy food groups. She just like me for real. Sniff, sniff, snorf, huh? You smell of meow maid. You are a nerd, I deem. I was once like you. I would line up for hours to get treasure. I was a fanatic. But I tired of that. I do not wish to bore you. If it pleases you, come and visit me another time. Man, straight up like you smell of cat girl. He knows that I'm a VTuber. What is this thing? That's a space rift. I hear these form to conceal hidden things. Oh, can I blow it up? Ever see Flynn the salesman? That guy sells some of the craziest stuff, it's great. He sets up shop underground somewhere. If you're interested, try to find him. Oh no, what to do? The deadline's on me and I've got nothing. I feel like I've had some ideas, but when I try to remember them, they're gone. So mysterious and so very awfully bad. 8 blocks, each color once. Hello, welcome to my shop, Catch a Dream. We sell novels so small they fit on cards. First time here? Righto. Available for purchase today, we have card bags and catch cards. A card bag is a little satchel that holds a single filled catch card. You won't know the character on it until you purchase it. Oh, such heady excitement. A catch card is an amazing thing. Use it on an enemy and the foe turns into a card. But you can use them but once, and if your foe is too powerful, it might not work. Oh, and if you have cards you no longer need, I would be glad to purchase them. Such are my wares, my dear prospective customer. Do you want to hear that again? No. And just what might I do for you on this fine day? So, like, canonically, trading cards have the souls of innocent creatures trapped inside of them. I respect it. Welcome to MTG. Funnily enough, I actually, today of all days, played Magic for the first time in a very long while. I've got a deck that is very fun, just not for the other player. There's not a whole lot of interactivity. I hit turn 3 and then I win. A hole in the sky, you say? I don't care about that, you incomprehensible bumbler. Oh no, we've only got 30 minutes until deadline. What have you got, Glim? Bunch of eggs and a thwomp. Okay, I've gotta find like the small boy that has the fishbowl. Pardon my French. Sorry, I sneezed, I didn't swear. My apologies. Unless this thing's a boy. Do you believe in fortune tellers? No? If you don't, then you ought to try seeing one just once. My mom says you might be able to reset a life button that you pushed by accident. What does that mean? Welcome to the Fortune Teller's Fortress. If you pay just a few coins, I will tell you the path you need to follow next. Sure. Ah! Hocus pocus focus, cabra-da-abra, hullabaloo. Acapulco peekaboo. Ah! Ahaha! Oh, stars that fill the vast night sky, see this soul who's lost the way, show me! I see your destined path. The flip side. You look for the young boy holding something like it. He is on the 3rd floor of Flipside. You speak to him, then the way opens. My fortune telling is done. Did you get it all? Yeah. That is all I can see. I shall await you. Okay, 3rd floor. I dug this tower so much that I decided to do a bunch of research on it. And I learned somewhere in the universe there's a black tower like this one. I've already seen that dialogue. There's the heart pillar. This kid with the fishbowl is probably what I'm after. Huh? Did Merlon gives me something like a helmet? You means this fishbowl? Yeah, I kept it Captain Gil's here in a cup, but then he got too big for it. Yeah, that's why I got real happy when I got this fishbowl. Thing is, now the captain got so big the bowl got too small for him. Hey, I know. Maybe you could find a nice place to set Captain Gil's freeze for me. Captain deserves freedom, then he gets the fishbowl. That's good, huh? Ah, but where can he go? I want to know that he'll be nearby at all times. He gots to help me. Dumps the fish out in front of the child, leaves. My first thought is that, that, like, watery bit that, like, leads to the guy that sells things. I just need to remember how to get there. Here we are. This looks like a good place to release the captain. Release it here? Yes. Now the fishbowl is empty. That means we can use it as a space helmet. Now we can go to space. So let's head back to that door. Well, that's one way to waste half an hour. Watch the fish get so big that, like, he blocks off the passage, and then I have to kill him. I wish this cutscene was skippable. It's not long, but it's annoying. Alright, round 2. Chapter 4-1 for realsies this time. Wanna use the helmet? No. It's dangerous to head into space all willy-nilly, you know? Please put the helmet on. No. It's not like being in water, you know? Please, I must insist. Put the helmet on. No. So let me get this clear. You enjoy not breathing. Please put the helmet on. No. I fail to see the wisdom. I beg of you, while your brain works, put the helmet on. No. If you don't, do you have any idea what your fate will be? Awful. How do you want that? No. Then put your helmet on. Fine. Well, what do you think? Can you breathe now? Very well. Let's go then. The pure heart is somewhere in this sea of stars. I could have used a game over there. I assumed as much, which is why I didn't do it. I didn't actually want to, have to do that all again. There's something here. What in the world is this? Why was this hidden here? Oh, is this a spaceship? Looks rather like it. Squeer. Squirple Squeeple Squinks, Morning Squirt. Oh dear, who are you? An alien, perhaps? You're the ones looking for the pure heart, Squirple. Huh, cuter than I thought. How do you know about the pure heart, and about us? Are you allied with Count Bleck? I demand answers. No, no scary faces. You can call me Squirps. I'm your Captain Squirp. And if you want the pure heart, we need to work together, Squirp. Whatever you mean. Please explain yourself. Squirps can't tell much now, but you must trust Squirps. Now follow me, Squinks. Smack! You heed the captain. You are a space grunt now, and that is the only rule. Your only responses should be yes, sir, and gotcha. Understand, Squircle? Gotcha. Squish, 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 squish. Looks like you understand your place, Squirt. Are you okay with this? If you say so. Great, let's get ready then. Swarp formation, Squirgle. We'll swarp directly to the pure heart. It's like warping, except Squirps invented it. In order to swarp, we'll need a lot of energy, Squeak. You're all brimming with power-up power, right? You must give it to Squirps. Press A to give Squirps your power-up power. Press and hold A until you think you built up enough power-up power, then release. Success. And here we go. Squawk. Riveting gameplay indeed. Squawk. We're not even close to our destination, Swoops. Is that all the power-up power you have, Squirt? Good-for-nothing space grunt. Squirps was an idiot for thinking that you had more. Well, good-for-nothings have their own good-for-nothing ways of moving, Squawk. There's a ways to go before you reach the pure heart. You must space swim. Use 2 to shoot enemies with my Squirp Squirt Beam. Squirt Fire, space grunt. Charge! Fair enough. Super Mario Land 2. Is that the one with Ward at the end? I have played that one, just not on stream. Fun fact, that was not actually a Mario game. Not Wario, Wart. He's like a frog that eats vegetables. Oh god, it's a teleporter maze. Nobody likes teleporter mazes. Why do people keep doing them? Alex' weakness, teleporter mazes, it's not necessarily a weakness, I just don't think that they're good. They're not fun. I try to be positive, but like... I don't think I can be positive about teleporter mazes. That's a warp pit of being a pure energy that can warp through space. It'll pursue any new discovery. Don't allow yourself to be mesmerized by its slowly undulating lines. That sure is a lot of guys. Oh, I see a pipe there. Yeah, I would like to go there, please. Thank you. I don't think I'm a fan of space swimming. Okay, so if you use the row, you automatically hop up. I'm trying to slam down on the top of this thing. Well, that was certainly a thing that took some time. I'm sorry, I'm just not in a very... I'm trying to think of how to put this diplomatically. Not really having an incredible amount of fun while space swimming. Let's save our progress. Mario and the gang cruised through space, led by the young alien named Squirps. What kind of a creature was it anyway? And what was with those weird noises? Whenever confronted with a question, it would say, "Squirps is Squirp Squawk." All that they could do was trust that he knew where the pure heart was and follow him. They were doing just that when something appeared ahead of them. It was a teeny tiny planet. A paper emergency? This planet really seems on the small side. Just where do you intend to take us? Somewhere on this planet should be an entrance to the space byway, Squeork. Yep, it's a shortcut to the pure heart. Really? You don't say. And where might that entrance be? Squish, 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 squish. You're gonna laugh, Squag. It's... Squish, squirror. Just like me for real. Don't look at Squirps like that, everything's fine. I think there probably should be some clues around here somewhere, Squirtle. What a wretch. Ah? What is it? Did you remember something? No, I have to go potty. I really have to go, Squirk. I can't hold it anymore. Let's look for some clues ourselves. Squirps, it's occupied, Squinkle, and whoever's in there won't come out. At this rate, Squirps is going to have an accident. Here I see Amore, awaiting you, Amore. No more, Amore. This is no time for some silly songs, Squirtle. Got a bathroom emergency here. 100 years ago, Amore. I came here to go, Amore. So bored, Amore. No toilet paper here, Amore. I wait 100 years, Amore. What for, Amore? Any favor, please, Amore. Just a sheet from me, Amore. Implore, Amore. Very Undertale-coded creature, that one. That thing is a Longator. It can stretch beyond the limits of imagination. 12 hit points, 1 attack. It likes to stretch its neck at enemies. Watch where you land near them. They look relaxed, but they can get aggressive. Oh, there's the space rip thingy. It bothers me more than I should that I can't just slam onto this thing. I might be a nerd, but at least I know what cat girls smell like. It won't open. That said, fox girls are better. What manner of creature are you? Lug, aren't you fancy? Let me guess, you're hunting the treasure too, right? Well, go look for the Elder. He knows stuff about things. Me, I plan on lounging. No, Tibby, that's not a boing-oing, that's that's an up arrow. She's trying her best. Don't sass Tiffy, I will happily sass Tiffy. That's a hooligan. They are space creatures that are made of many parts. 10 hit points to attack. It loses pieces of itself as it takes damage. The head is the weak spot. You have to hit it there to defeat it. Alternately, blow it up. Ugh, a customer. Rare. Look, why not take a load off? Moving is tiring. Was that, Space Pilot? Oh, haven't seen one. Haven't eaten one either. Where to in such a hurry? Space is endless, Ook. You ought to take your time. Also, yeah, it's like you give me infinite bombs, so you expect me not to use them? That'd be rude. I need a lot of self-healing. Why is that? Bombs don't hurt me. So basically, I'm indestructible. Also, I'm literally indestructible. I should not be able to jump on a spiny to defeat it. I'm sorry. That just doesn't feel right. Sounds spiky and spicy, but like, they hurt on contact in every other game. I do like the shiny gemstones. Can I have those? You got a space food. Now, not just for astronauts, fills 10 hit points and cures poison. Shoutouts to that one astronaut who hated space food so much that they snuck like a whole like ham onto the International Space Station. Greetings, young explorer. Welcome to this remote land. You must be Bushed Blue. And I'm what's known as an active senior explorer. The name's Flappy, I'm 72. In my youth, while everybody hunted for snacks, I hunted the big treasure of space. It's big, it's treasure, and it will be mine at last. I found a clue in the space ruins. So, explorer to explorer, I'll cut you a deal, Bloog. This clue for 1,000 coins. Also, fuzzies aren't from Paper Mario. You buy it, too rich for my blood. What? Too expensive? Well, maybe a little, Bloog. Yeah. Sorry, I got a touch of lard lung. Anyway, I'll cut you a deal. How's 100 coins? Sure. You got the ancient clue. The scroll has the following words scribbled on it. By Rockman's noggin, when outer space is reversed, the door secret hides. I'm through with you, Bloog. Go home now. I presume that that's the rift over, like, the man head that I saw earlier. Space is reversed. I wonder what reversed means. I don't think I have a pixel that does that. I'm on the moonwalk. The funny thing is, that might actually be a solution in this game. And remember, we're doing all of this to get toilet paper. What is Mock Ball? Is that a Super Metroid thing? This tree looks cool, at least. It's a basic unintended skip. Interesting. Alright, where did I leave that head thing? Okay, here we are. How do I reverse this? Can I... Wait... You should be able to open that door by standing in front of it and pressing... That's not helpful, but... Debbie? That's not helpful. I presume I need to find a pixel for this. I presume that I just don't have what it takes. Let me double check the... Did not actually need to eat that, whoops. Oh well. important thing, ancient clue. By Rockman's noggin, when outer space is reversed, the door secret hides. Hides secret door, the reversed is space, outer when Noggin Man's rock by. That's not it. Outer space is reversed. I tried flipping the controller upside down. That's not helping. Okay, I presume that I just have to find a pixel hidden somewhere. Do I want to be told? Yes, please. Go back to the toilet. Oh, you used the clue as toilet paper. You know, that would not have crossed my mind, like, ever. Alright. Well, maybe at some point it would have, just... I don't think it would have in a reasonable time frame. Imagine paying $100 for not even a roll, just like a single use of toilet paper. Any paper, please, amore. Just a sheet for me, amore. Implore, implore, amore. Papers, papers, amore. Love the papers, amore. Oh, more, amore. Philippe has waited for you. At last we meet me, amore, my sweet, sweet paper. I feel like over the course of 100 years, it would have, like, dried out. You could just pick it off and it wouldn't be that gross. And now we do part amore, for down you depart amore, no more, amore. Squirps can't take it anymore. Squirps will burst. Evacuate all personnel. Relief. It's a paper miracle. Philippe is a feeling good. You bring Philippe the happy. Philippe has been awaiting so long for you, amore. See for this momento. The pixels are helpful tools, see? But we no choose masters, be they good or bad. Still, Philippe has the passion to be used for something, so Philippe waited here, amore. And you found Philippe, amore. Oh, thank you, Diva, amore. From this memento, you and Philippe are as one. We shall never part. Philippe follows you, amore. Companion true, amore. The reversible pixel named Philippe joined your group. Use Philippe and you can turn over sections of the screen. Something good might be hiding back there for you to pick up. On the back side of the sad is the happy. You will find it. You and Philippe amore. So canonically, Squirt here just used the bathroom without toilet paper. Just throwing that out there. Phew, Squirps needed that. Okay, let's go back. Let's go look for the entry to the space bypass, Squibble. Never heard of a urinal? You'd still need to clean up after. It's fun, nerd. Now I've been rotated. You got a door key, which is a key to a door on planet Blobule. I remember seeing a locked door somewhere. Go back to the toilet, but I found the key. I remember there being like a locked door. Back to the toilet? Surely that was like farther ahead. That was like down here, wasn't it? Perhaps it wasn't. I know I always found one of these holes. Here we are. Alright, we're gonna take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom. Anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. I return. Also, I noticed that at some point Mario took his face helmet off. I do like the psychedelic tree. Mario and friends headed to the space bypass in search of the Pure Heart. How did Squirps know about this secret route? Our hero stared suspiciously at him. "Why are you staring at me like that?" said Squirps. "Are you falling for Squirps?" Now you know fangs are clearly evil. In the darkness of space, the eyes of Squirps glinted mischievously. The gates of space. This is the space bypass. Yeah, from somewhere in here we can enter the Woe Zone. Come on, Space Grunt, look for the entrance, Squeork. The Woe Zone? You simply must be kidding with me. I demand answers. It's a prohibited zone, Squirp. Some call it the Space Graveyard, Squoix. It's a complicated maze. They say once you go in, you can never get out. And supposedly the Pure Heart is hidden at the very back of that maze, Squinkly. How would you know that? Who are you really, you incontinent little imp? Squirple Squeal Squirp. I made some room at that pit stop, now I'm hungry. Don't worry about that, Space Grunt. Find the Woe Zone entrance, Squibble. I bet at the other end of this is gonna be like, oh, I'm really hungry, and now I'm going to eat you since you've shown me where the Pure Heart is. Ooh, shooting star. R.I.P. Thunder Rage. It's an X mark. It looks like you can flip it with Fleep. Never seen one before. Squirble Squawk, this hole, what a lovely shape, Squirp. It was made for me. I don't know why, but I want to be squeezed into there. Somebody squish me in. Want to squish Squirps into there? Squish. Squeeze there. What is this thing? It is a space gate, Squirp. These lead from the space bypass to the Woe Zone. Through this gate is the way forward, Space Grunts. Note to self, don't try to move up in front of a door. I need a second Squirp. Oh, chosen one, what will fulfill this strange alien's desire? Something sweet that starts with chaw and ends with let. This will open the way. Okay, so I get him some chocolate and he makes another one maybe? Who knows? I want the chocolate for myself. What might be in here? Chocolate cake? Chocolate cake would really hit the spot right now. I made brownies not long ago, but then I ate them all, so now I've got none. Truly a modern tragedy. Yeah, Ariel has brownies. She ate them. How many does she have left? It feels almost like one of those trick questions. Where it's like, one woman can give birth to one child in 9 months. How quickly can 9 women give birth to 3 children? One day to pick the right woman. I mean, even with triplets, it would still take 9 months. Like, I'm talking about the process from scratch, not like the moment that people usually think about. As far as I could tell, there was a whole lot of nothing in that previous screen. And there's about as much nothing on this screen. This one's new. But it's full of coins, which usually means that it's a dead end. A lot more money had I 3D'd. I did 3D. Unless you mean like preemptively. mushroom shake. Can't get that one either. This game just doesn't like giving me things. Looks like there's another thing here. Maybe this leads someplace I haven't been before. Well, alright then. Have a twinkly day. Welcome to Twinkle Mart. If we're not closed, we're open. Wow, I was so lonely. Since our grand opening, you're our first customer. I think I should have thought about location more when I bought this place. Damn it, space has been corrupted by capitalism. What you looking for today? Just grab whatever grabs your eye, Twinkle Shoppers. Okay, so this is for the kids, so I'll get the cheap one. Get rid of that stuff and come back. Can I sell things to you? Take that as a no. Let's see. Oh, you like spin it. Well, alright then. Okay, so for the kid, the cheap one. And then for me, the expensive one. Thank you very much. Calling me Twinkle Pink. It gets lonely here, so promise to come again, okay? Move cursor around the icon. In English, that could be interpreted as in the vicinity of, rather than in a circle around. So, yeah. Well, should I get you the expensive one? If it does, I'm killing him. I don't care if he's a boss or not. That's my chocolate. Now I just gotta find where I left that portal back. I think it might have been this one. Squirple Squee, another wonderful shape. I feel another compulsion. Must get twisted into there. Somebody twist me in. Something's missing, Squirk. Definitely. I can't shake it. There's only one solution. That's right, Squirps must eat something yummy. Squirps will not move until Squirts eat something good. This I declare Squirp. Ah, so hungry, Squirps can't move. Well, Squirps can move, but so very slowly. Squirps needs to eat something yummy. Squirps is a gourmet. You think I'd be satisfied with something like this swag? But you went to all this trouble, Space Grunt, so I don't want to, but... Squatcha. This is the chocolate and nuts melt together, creating a full flavor with a clean finish. It's a sweet chocolate sonata written for lovers. It's pure cocoa love. Squirtle. So good. Squirt. Sorry about that. Squirps got carried away. The key. It's appeared. The gold is nice, Squiggle. Let's go, Space Friends. Meant to do all that without him? I wish I had. I don't like him. Anyway. End of chapter. Mario and his friends took the space byway and merged into the Woe Zone. Notice how as the space graveyard was said to consume all who entered it. Just a little bit longer. We'll be arriving soon, said young Squirps. With his unblinking eyes glimmering, Squirps continued to forge onward. Would Mario and his friends get their hands on the pure heart at long last? The mysterious Mr. L. We're here, Squiggle. This is the Woe Zone. Squirps has finally arrived, Squidly. Squirps is here. Squirps can't wait. Squirps is going to scurry ahead. Follow Squirps when you can. But remember, Space Grunts, this place is a super complicated maze. You'll get lost before you know it, so pay attention to where you're going, Squeer. Well, Squirps will see you guys later, at the spot where the pure heart waits. I can't believe that creature left us at a time like this. But I must say, I do feel the presence of the pure heart. It's somewhere in this zone. I do like the aesthetic, and I do like the background music. It's very PS1 endgame zone. A lot of games back then were like, hey, wanna see the polygons? Give me that thing, please and thank you. Okay, so I can end up on the ceiling here. That is a very large creature. This bizarre beast is called a Pigarhythm. Everything about it is just odd. Unknown max HP to attack, it takes 3 stomps to finish off this piggy. But each stomp makes it smaller and faster. It's very hard to stomp the last one. Pigarhythms often drop many coins, so you may want to hunt them if you're broke. Well, alright then. That was substantially less difficult than they gassed it up like it was going to be. What's your thing? That's a berry bad. You can shield itself with a strong barrier. 4 hit points, 2 attacks. It shoots rings of energy from its mouth. You can't break its barrier, but you can flip to get places it might not want you to. Ooh, a block. That's like a cube squared. Briefly makes you invincible. A dimension key. The key to a door in the woe zone. Another one of these things. I see the difficulty now. How silly of me. I knew the answer all along. Boomer can do anything. Alternately just one-shot it. Or three-shot it as the case may be, but like one combo. And now I'm on the ceiling. Hold on. Let me, take this, and... There we go. That just makes this more complicated. Thank you for the rotation. There we go. Okay, so it's like a teleporter maze that also, like, throws you into a bunch of different places. Oh dear. Okay, I need to, hold on. I need to take this and I need to put it back. There we go. Now, see at the screen like this, it was a bit, you don't have to worry about it. Okay, where were we? All the game is self-inflicted. I think it's the block things that inflicted that pain. Like, I'm sure the damage logs will bear out my side of events. How long since last night? Not very. So I guess there's nothing productive in here. Need another key for that. There's a chest on the ceiling. And another door there. feel like I'm overlooking something important. Let's eat that chocolate bar. Okay, so I don't think there's anything useful through this pipe. Question mark? I'll double check just to be certain. Conceivably, I could flip something with the guy that flips things, or I could find something with Tippy. If I can get up there... At least it's not as labyrinthian as an actual proper teleporter maze. Another dimension door. Can I use this pipe to reset myself? Evidently not. So now I gotta go all the way around. Got more lost in the space one than the woe zone? Yeah, because in space there's nothing. In the woe zone it's trippy, but at least it makes sense. It's like internally consistent. There's points of reference. There's lots of stuff in space, no there wasn't. That's why it's called space and not, like, lack thereof. I do love cubes, they are my favorite primitive shape. I should do Blender on stream someday, just so I can spawn cubes. It's always fun seeing what a cube grows up and becomes. Negative vibration. Suspiciously door-shaped hole. There's a hidden door here. I'll make it visible for you. Get rotated. Looks like I need to get another dimension key from somewhere. I presume from a hidden door in this room. Or perhaps not. Here we are. Not exactly hidden, but like off the ideal path. Dimension key. Some very trippy 3D visuals. If you're ever being chased by a ghost, blow them up. That's the proper way to do it. Why did nobody is never think of that? He's not a ghost, I think. Slowpokes. Squackles. Squirps was tired of waiting. Squirps almost gave up. The pure heart that you're looking for is just ahead, Space Grunts. Squirps, you've done well. You're a smart kid. Squirple squeeze, stop it. Squirps is embarrassed. Wait, whose voice was that, Squirp? Squirp? Who are you? Oh, me? Just want to count Black's more promising minions. The Green Thunder. Mr. L. Mr. L? I don't need you to tell me it's a cool name. I know it. Don't bother memorizing it. Why? Because I'm about to give you a burial at sea. I mean, a burial in space. Just because you're in bed doesn't mean you're strong. How about you? If only Luigi was here to take care of this poser, there's no way Luigi could ever fight Mr. L. Ugh, impressive. I guess there's but one thing to do, huh? Come to me, Metal Bro. Aha, do you like him? That is my dear metal brother. He and I share a spiritual bond, you know. Yes, and his name is Brobot. Enough playing already. Now for pain. The gravitational laws of space allow Brobot's potential to be finally realized. Hey, Mr. Jumps all the time. Now we'll see who's the better jumper. Ooh, chocolate. Release me immediately. Power. I like power. Hey, this makes no sense. No, you beat Robot. Oh, I'll let you off the hook for the rest of today, I suppose. But remember this, when fortune smiles next, she'll smile right here on Mr. Al. Ah, that was awful, Squirt. We have to pull ourselves together, Space Grunts. The PR heart is ahead. Come on, Swinkles. In hindsight, I wonder if I could have done, like, 3D stuff there. Mommy, Scripps brought them here. Oh, we're finally here. Come on, say hi to Scripps' mommy, Squirt. Yeah, this is Scripps' mommy, the Queen of Scorpia. Her name is Scorpina the 14th. The Queen is your mother? So you are... Scripps is the Prince of Scorpia, a once great kingdom. My true name is Scripcora Galine Scorpina. Sorry for not telling you. Scripps promised not to tell. It makes Scripps a target. Long ago, Scripps' mother was told that destruction would come to the world. And in order to protect us from this destruction, we needed the pure heart. So Mommy hid the pure heart in the woe zone where nobody could get to it. And so, 1500 years ago, Scripps was put to sleep in a hibernation capsule suite. Scripps was meant to bring the hero here to protect the world, Squirtle. Ah, so that's why. The Prince of Scorpia, Squirps, has a message from the Queen to deliver. I bestow upon you the pure heart in the hope that you will save the world. Here, take it, Squirp. You got a pure heart. Okay, I'm pretty sure I already know where the rift to find the next pillar is. Phew, now that Squirps is all relaxed, Squirps feels kinda tired, said Squirps. And with that, Squirps lay down before the statue of his beloved mother. Mother, he said, his voice soft, I did my best, right? Are you proud of me? Then, slowly, young Squirps closed his eyes. The mission had weighed heavy on his tiny back, and he was proud to fulfill it. I'm not convinced he isn't a villain. Yeah, so guys, huddle up, Kate. We're just gonna have a quick new minion orientation. His name is Mr. L, and he comes to us from one of our key competitors. I can't say I'm impressed by the minion quality. No, indeed. No wonder you've been trounced up till now. You're like junior minions. Junior? Come here and I'll introduce this Junior and his wee pal Slappy. Gosh, Mr. L, but didn't you get pretty spanked too? So maybe you're the junior. Spanked, you say? Haha. I was scouting him, dear. He will be mine next time. Yes, he shall know the fury of the one and only Mr. L, aka the Green Thunder. But enough about me. I need to head to the repair bay for robot modifications. Till later. Though the man in red shall wield formidable powers, one shall stand against him. The man in green shall use the Chaos Heart's power to bring darkness to all. So it is written in the Dark Prognosticus. So what you're saying is the man in green is our minion in training, Mr. Al? What? That makes as much sense as a beef and broccoli sandwich. Calm yourself, though, Chunks. Make ready. Count Bleck is sending you on a new mission. Ah, now that makes sense. It'll be the honor count. I owe Chunks swear to you this hero's got a hot date with Miffy. Chunks away. My, aren't we hot-blooded? Well, well, I suppose that's to be admired. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to be on my way as well. Ciao. So poor little Mimi doesn't get to be in on the fun? This stinks. Yeah, I just seem like a whistleblower here, but Chunks may not. Actually, Eva Dimencio, Mimi, and Mr. L may not be up to this. That hero's gonna collect the pure hearts and come here. He'll come for you. Yes, Mimi was wearing the nice polka dot dress this time. Bleh, all is according to plan, Count Bleck assures you. It's strange, nobody ever, cherished the universe the way you once did. And yet you've been made to destroy it. That's quite enough, Anastasia. I could, You'd what? If only I could have, you know, been that girl. Things would have been different. She cannot be replaced. You could never hope to do so, Anastasia. Yeah, I'm very sorry. That just slipped out. To be sure, she is gone. Gone from all worlds, never to return. What are you thinking? There's no possible way. Nobody would allow it. If we can't be happy here, we must leave for a place that will accept our love. But Lumiere, is there such a place? I can't bear to see you hurt again. If our love has no home, let us spend our lives searching together. So I beg of you again, Tenpenny, marry me. I promise I will make you happy. You just won't give up, will you? Of all this crazy, stubborn, foolish men. Tenpenny, answer me, please. Lumiere, I love you. Take me away. Take me to a world where we can be happy. Now we've gotten 5 pure hearts. This is turning into quite a collection. What did I tell you, huh? You got the king of all evilness on your side. You can't go wrong. Yes, tee-hee-hee. That said, we owe Squirps for helping us find this one. We should be grateful. Say, Tippy, something seems different about you recently. You seem a little bit more cheerful. It's a nice change. You think so? Well, ever since you saved me from Fort Francis, I've been feeling really good. I feel like I could just hang around with Mario forever. Eh? So, you're all back? How was it this time, then? Did you find another pure heart in outer space? Yes, we found the 5th pure heart. And this one? Ah! Oh! Huh? What? Tiffy? What has happened? All of you, come to my house at once. Hurry now. Very well. Let's all take a breath and gather ourselves here. I'm concerned. Tiffy may be unable to maintain her pixel form for much longer. Her pixel form? What the heck does that mean? Well, you see, Tiffy was not always a pixel. I found her in her true form, exhausted, cursed to wander through dimensions forever. She was hanging by a thread, barely alive, so I took a desperate measure. Using my ancestors' magic, I transformed her soul into a pixel, and this Tiffy was born. I can hardly believe it. So where is Tiffy from originally, then? She had lost her memory, so I have no idea who she is or where she's from. But I can't help thinking that she didn't come here by chance. Fate connects us. And my intuition in this area is rarely mistaken. The void has grown larger, and these tremors have become common, I'm afraid. Our situation grows more dire by the moment. Will the events written in the Light Prognosticus really forestall the foretold doom? I will watch over Tiffy. Young heroes, take the pure heart, find the next heart pillar. Like I say, I'm pretty sure I know where it is. Here we are. Mirror Hall. Colored blocks. There we go. Not terribly difficult. Thank you for the head taps. So we were in flip side. Are we now in like flip side? Flop side? I wasn't far off. That house, I don't think anybody lives there, but I hear voices. You think that maybe, possibly, or impossibly? Can it be? And if it is so, then why? Oh, dearest grandmother, what must I do to live as long as you? My dear, I believe you must eat what you like and don't eat what you don't like. That is the secret to a long life. How very fascinating. Grandmother said that too. Okay, so like everybody here is like the total opposite of their otherworld counterpart. Would you care to hear my little song? Ooh, Lulu lullaby, the singer that is I, and the songwriter's my guy. We create tunes to united lyrics, song, and music writing. But more than the other music we made, my guy's true love is the arcade. Ooh, Lulu lullaby. But now all alone I sing, close to my heart my memories cling. Hey you, ever tried Dillis's spicy pasta dish? So spicy but so good, the pasta's al dente. It'll make you scream with joy. Absolutely scrumptious, you should definitely try some. Ah, well, here you are, Now where'd you get in from, huh? This is no place for someone who cannot appreciate the art, someone like vous. I think you had better leave, go away, take off scoot, be gone, huh? Off a shoot straight from the hip, as people say. And that causes him to hurt the feelings of those close to him. That is what Mama said. You know, most of the time when people are like, oh, I'm just brutally honest, what they really mean is, I'm an asshole. You will eat now, Schnitzel. This is cooking laboratory called Hot Fran. Here we grab flavor and we spank it. You bring 2 ingredients on Zen We mix treats so tasty you cry like baby. And now we cook for you. First ingredient now. Egg mix. Second ingredient now. Volt shroom. You want I should cook with a cake mix and volt shroom? Yes. You wait, I cook schnitzel. Slice and simmer. Now we must make chow. Wait 1 second. Done. Completion. Now you will eat little bratwurst. Mushroom grape. 28th point. Cures poison. Nice. This is the first time you make dish, and so we will add this to the recipe list. Remember this schnitzel. You find no ingredients, you will bring them here. And there's a DS on the wall. Okay, we're gonna take another 5-minute break here. Well, there's like a logo behind this pillar and I can't make it out. We're gonna take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom. Anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. I return. I was just pressing up on the controller to keep her from falling asleep. I know it's common sense, so maybe this kind of sort of goes without saying, but you can cross a single block space just by running over it. Did you already know that? Yeah, I kinda sorta figured. Sorry, forgot I said anything. A hole in the sky, you say? I don't care, don't matter to me, whippersnapper. You think anything that happens now affects my life at all? Ha! I've been alive for 80 years, for toad's sake. My classmate's so into cards, and boy, I'm getting sick of it. Stupid cards aren't fun. Still, I have to admit the pictures are kinda cool. Oh, fine, I'll get into this stupid trend. I'll just pick up a couple. Yo, you're standing in fondest hopes, a card shop selling hope for coins. Never been here? Yeah, well, what we got here are your basic caught cards and catch card SPs. Caught cards are really awesome, they got characters on them. We sell caught cards for different prices depending on how, rare they are. Use a catch card SP on your basic baddie and you'll capture the dude. These cards are good at catching your enemies, so you can only use them once. If you bring the cards you don't need here, I'll buy them off you, no questions. You wanna hear all that again or what? No. What you need? Oh, whoops. Pictures are able, just look at Fatal Frame. I've never actually played a Fatal Frame game. I also feel like it was, a massive missed opportunity for the Wii U. Cause imagine, you got, the Wii U, gamepad thing. And you look around your actual living space and see ghosts in your home that are trying to murder you. Wouldn't that be awesome? Haha, not to brag, but I just so happen to be a best-selling novelist. Tell me, have you ever heard of the Grotus Chronicles? I created that epic cartoon. Yes, and as of late my mind positively brims with ideas of the utmost quality. I've hit all my deadlines for the next 5 years so I can spend time at my leisure. I would never survive Fatal Frame? Watch me. I totally could. I'm built different. You have a gun in that game, right? Perhaps for Halloween, depending on how long the game is. I might get my hands on a copy. My, it's been 60 years since Harold and I were married. Impressive, huh? A lot can happen in 60 years, unless you're us. We were so poor when we were young, no fine meals or fancy clothes. Now our kids are grown, things are easier, but now the world is in danger. This life of mine, what was the meaning of it? Life doesn't have meaning, not inherently. That's kind of up for you to decide. Or determine, as the case may be. Hear the news? If that hole in the sky keeps getting bigger, we're all through. If that's true, if that's truly true, I want to see what happens. Behold, the second floor, that elevator there goes to the first floor. Tell me, have you seen the first floor house with the locked door? Suspicious. Oft I imagine what could hide inside. Tis an amusing diversion, to be sure. I want to go there now. Mayhap I shall do it later. I welcome you. I knew you would come by eventually. Aha, I can see that you would like to ask me where in the world we are. Aha, this place may seem like Flipside, but do not be mistaken. You were in Flipside, but then you flip-flopped sides. Friends, you are in Flopside. Which means that I am not the Merlon you know. I am the Flopside version, a different Merlon entirely. You may call me Nolram. Don't you see? Ours has always been a story of two towns. But the only ones who know about this flip-floppery are Merlon and I. You seem a bit surprised. Oh, there is a front and back to all things, young ones. Now, the heart pillar is one floor up. Go and place the pure heart within it. See here. I expected him to be more evil, not gonna lie. You were in Flopside now? Yes, another town behind the Flipside you know so well. The ancients created this town so that only the heroes could reach the pure hearts. Yes, all the remaining heart pillars are believed to reside here in this town. With the power you possess, it is a certainty that you will find your way to them. Oh, that's the black pillar that the guy was excited about. Oh, now, have you heard? They say that at this rate, Flopside will be destroyed. If it's gone, what am I to do? Maybe open a convenience store or something. Oh man, this town is just plain jumping with ladies who are just my type. And at the top spot of the list right now is Inga the Innkeeper. Would you see that look? Zort, love shock. I love staying at the inn. I give it 3 stars on the love slimemeter. But a word to the wise, pretty flowers have thorns. Careful or you'll get stuck. Gee, you look kinda tired. If you don't feel 100%, you ought to see a charmer. With a little pep in your step, your days will be more fun, trust me. Ah, it is Mayor Lee's House of Charms, Flopside branch by my arms. You surprised? Don't be. I was worried for you, G, so I moved here, If you have a charm of mine, life will surely be so fine whether it's rain or shine. Let me ask this, though. Want a charm before you go? Sure. Charm packages vary now. In extra goodness I allow. You'll have to say wow. Choose, you can't lose. Special package. Aqua, welcome. Good to see you. Thank you, really and truly. Here we go. Sparkling sun up in the sky, showing fortune on these guys. Yay. Charming is now complete. You're set to go compete. When that charm wears out, come back for another bout. Here goes all my life savings. I can get more. Like, I'm literally in a party with, like, royalty and royalty from a different kingdom. That's 2 treasuries. I surely wouldn't mind if it skimmed a little bit off the top. By a little bit, I mean, like, all of it. Treasure's in a different dimension, so... It's called a check. I know they're good for it. Looking good on this model? Thank you. This is actually a Viroid model. Like, if you went on Steam and, downloaded a program called Viroid Studio, which is free, you could make one just like it. I found a heart pillar. You appear to be performing your duties efficiently. I just got a message from Merlon. Tippy's been revived. They are waiting for you at the top of the Flipside Tower. Hurry, you must go there. Also, my newer model is almost done. And I'm actually really proud of the tracking on that one. I dig this tower so much, I decided to do a bunch of research on it. And I learned somewhere in the universe there's a white tower like this one. Did you hear me? White, can you believe it? Black is timeless, classy. Black towers are the best. White, blarf. Wouldn't it be feel good to flies? I wish I got wings so I could fly in the skies. I'd be so free up there in the skies. I love being free. And I don't love homework. I mean, flying is pretty awesome. Check it out, I'll show you how. Anyway. Ow, my bones. But I lived. Alright, now I just need to remember how to get back. Ow, 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 ow. You fools. I had a doctor's appointment. Now they're gonna stay away for like another week. You're certainly spending all your points today. Not that I mind. I do think I like it better in Flipside, it's better illuminated. Granted, foxes are nocturnal, so... Oh! Yes, this is my OG avatar. This is what I looked like when I very first started streaming. My ears aren't quite as big. So fun fact, the larger ears on my newer avatar are actually a bit of an accident, bit of a happy accident. Because what had happened was my hard drive had failed, and I was desperately trying to recreate my avatar. I tried to do the whole thing in like half an hour. And like when I put the ears on the head, I couldn't remember the exact settings, so I just kind of made them big. And then it stuck. Yeah, I might have to temporarily disable this redeem when I go to show off my new avatar. You're back. I'm feeling better now. Let's get going. Are you sure you feel well enough, my dear? I'll be fine. This is no time to stay in bed anyway. And I want to be near Mario. Then I will not hold you back. These good people will surely need your knowledge. Heroes, please take good care of Dippy. Looks like I went from teenager to young adult. That's good. I would rather not be mistaken for a minor. Now go, finish your work. Oh, thank you for the rotation. Another rather noteworthy shortcoming on this model is that it does not have a tail because V-Roy Studio did not have tails when I made it. Still worried about Dippy's condition, Mario and friends opened the fifth door. They still needed to find 3 pure hearts, but the imminent destruction of the world was approaching at an alarming pace. Would Mario have enough time to save the day? And what foul trick would Count Bleck and his goons come up with next? This adventure grew more dangerous and more thrilling with every step. Chapter 5-1 Downtown of Crag. Where's that HK? Which one? Well, those guys certainly look like guys. Goons? Oh, yes. I I mean, goon is still fine. It's like gooning that's kind of incorrupted. Oh my, where are we? Quite a nice view from here in midair, but I can't yet see the pure heart. Wait, midair? Oh dear. Oh, crack-a-rack-a-boo, crack-a-dack-a-doo. Brah, big rock who watches. Cragnons just little rocks. Cragnons need help. You hook Cragnons up, brah, or Cragnons go crunch and then no more Cragnons. End of all Cragnons coming. No way, must crag on. Save us Cragnons, brah. Crickly croon, crack-a-whack-a-doo, go. Oh, crag. What in crag? Are you alright? Whoa, Skarn. You see person drop out of sky, brah? Yeah, Jasperoid. Thought I was losing my crag, brah. Person shaped weird, huh? Wait, you think maybe person sat down to help by Big Rock who watches? This hair face, brah? But, thought that Big Rock who watches would send somebody cooler. But your crag, brah, do not power a Big Rock who watches. Point well cracked, brah.
Oh.
I got a Mario. You stop that this instant. Servants of Big Rock who watches. You big boulders, we just gravel bits. Where in the world are we? And what are you things? Tiffy kinda racist. This is land of Cragnons. Me Cragnon, him Cragnon, this land of Cragnons. It's not rocket science, brah. Anyway, Big Brah here is Marbald, chief of all Cragnons. Cragnons? What? Oh, great servants of Big Rock who watches. Cragnons having trouble down here. Serious, bad, big danger. One day, freak plant people came. Nerd Cragnon named them Florosapiens. They kidnapped many Cragnons who were peaceful bras. They give peace no chance. Rescue team of Cragnons now need to be rescued. We at end of our crag. How do we save Cragnons? No ideas come to Marbald and we keep losing Cragnons. This bad bras. Cragnons must work this out or Cragnons go extinct, brah. Blah blah blah. You prune Florosapiens. You save kidnapped buds. You hook Cragnons up. Sure thing, brah. Yeah, you're not cragging my chain? Cragnons, so you big time, bras. You rock. Serious. Yeah, serious. No cragging. Big Rock who watches into Cragnons for sure. It's a terrible, brah. King Crocus return. What? Village Cragnons kidnapped. Please, Cragnons need hooking up, brah. Service of Big Rock who watches. You heard that right, kind bras. Please, you help. You hook up, Cragnons. Hook up, please. I got just what you need right here. Just look at the pretty flowers, Marble. Hey, check it out, man. Haven't seen that one before, have we? You know, I didn't even, like, parse that there would actually be flowers when I said that. Yeah, for sure. It must be some sort of rare breed or something, right? Yeah, rare breed, totally. Sweet timing, too. We need a pure heart polisher. Score! Mario, these odd creatures need to know about the pure heart. Our super mighty leader, King Crocus, will be stoked to have a rare breed. Let's tenderize it a bit and tote it back, dude. Seems as though the leader of those uncouth things has the pure heart. We'd best try to find him. Help! Florosapiens are taking more villagers. Haha, oh crag. You try to trick the leaving house? You're too smart for that, brah. It's like a TD. No Kragnaw's home, brah. Serious? Stupid Flora Sapiens, you are no good. This fire scared you as a child? Hopefully you were able to enact vengeance upon them. Looks like this is probably the chapter where I learned how to become small. Well, I mean, I'm already small, but like smaller. They're fleeing. I wonder where they're headed. We must follow them. Horsetail, Spring Breed that restores 7 hit points and cures poison. I'm more of a Foxtail person, personally. But you know, Uma Musume has been popular recently. Moon clefts. On the one hand, I do think it's kind of cool that like all the different characters have different abilities. On the other hand, it's a slight pain to switch between them quickly. Also, the Flora Sapiens seem to be, not here. I'm sure I'll find them, brah. Was that the song that sends you home? I don't think so. What do you mean? You got a Bowser 2 card. Did I just have a Fox moment without realizing it? Ooh, Horsetail. I don't play Uma Musume, but my favorite one is Ice Shower because she has the exact same vibe as me IRL. Like, the obvious answer is Gold Chip, but like... I just like Ice Shower more. I think she's cute. Plus she has a knife. Which is very Fox-coded if you think about it. I feel like I'm missing something. Like, am I supposed to find something with Tippy, perhaps? Or flip something with Flippy? Sorry, Flippy. I'm glad you're having fun. Maybe there's something else down here that I missed. Not that I can see. Maybe I go back to the door? Maybe these like things in the background do something? Or not? Oh, hi there. Kragnons lived here a long time, hunting in peace, but Kragnons end soon. Florosapiens will take all Kragnons sooner than ya. Oh, Big Rock who watches, Kragnons beg you, hook up poor Kragnons. This is literally the plot of Hoseki no Kuni. Like, actually. Garbage into river, crag. Every day into river, yag. Toss it, Nick on, grag. What? What is Marl doing? Throwing trash into river, obviously. Use your crag. Return trash to nature, bro. Cannot waste garbage. Everybody know that. Hoseki no Kuni is a very good series, by the way. I highly recommend it. Face look real sad, bro. You not enjoy life? Yeah, here's Secret of Light. Find stuff that interests you, then you get your crack on. Stuff of interest all over. Jasperoid tell you about one to start you up, bro. You see 3 blocks in a row, you bonk them like this, left, right, middle. Something of interest really haven't been, bro. Jasperoid crank you not. Leader of Florosapiens, King Crocus loves pretty things, brah. Crocus has huge collection of pretty things, yeah? Oh, Crocus will come straight for Kimberlite. You hear of my beauty, brah? At least you think so, but no kidnapping yet. Maybe they're so dazzled by beauty of Kimberlite that they fall on his faces. Ooh, meat. Wait, they're rocks that eat meat. That's got terrifying implications, actually. You know about Kragnon who crags in face of danger? Flint Cragley? No, sorry. You know, watch Flint Cragley, Cragtrotter, an adventure documentary on crag fishing. There was dark screams into maw of howling cleft colony of terror. And, Assault on Cragley, Belly Camera versus Bad Burrito. That went awesome, brah. Tough record show every time it on Crag Vision in town. Ooh, spears. If only I could, like, grab the spear and use it to stab things. I feel like that'd make Mario's job at least 1% easier. Rock computer. That's charming. I like that. What if I can flip this laundry? No, I cannot. And then that's just where the corpse of Marble is. Then again, would it be a corpse or would it be a rubble? Is there a distinction when a creature is rock? Are we surrounded by corpses? Is the planet itself a giant corpse? These are the questions you need to ask yourself when you're world building. Similar note, there's a setting called Exalted, where the sun is actually an indestructible glass sphere, containing an evil god, and all the light and heat it gives off is because of how relentlessly and furiously it is attacking the batteries of its prison. And I love stuff like that. Oh dear, did you see them? Over there. That is certainly a creature of some description. That massive beast is a muff. They roam the grassy plains of Crag. Max HP 100 and attack is 5. They can trample nearly anything. They also have a lot of hit points, so they aren't easy to take down. And the Kragnons have risked fighting muffs just to prove their bravery. Engaging gameplay. Bone-in Cut, a legendary cut of meat that briefly doubles your attack. That sounds right up my alley. I like double attack. Three blocks in a row, looks like they're part of some kind of mechanism. Am I missing something? Probably doing less damage than most, what do you mean? Like in an under-leveled sense, or... So the order that I was given earlier was left, right, middle. Assuming that this is a sequence that's only 3 long, there's only so many options. Is there like a 4th one, or perhaps one up above? Use a program with self-resetting luck like this in Minecraft with Redstone after 3 failed tries to kill you. That's fun. Back when I used to play like on SMP with like, thank you for the hydration. Back when I used to play on an SMP with people that like weren't friends, what I did was I like dug all the way down to bedrock. I built a vault out of obsidian, and in front of it I put like a 7x7 panel of pressure plates, and you had to walk across them in a very specific path, or the door, which was like on the vault, which was iron, which was slammed shut. I was quite proud of it. And then somebody X-rayed it, dug into it from above, broke all my chests, and poured lava on the ground. That's kind of the problem when you're playing on like a random SMP. So, perhaps I go back and I get another hint. Yeah, nowadays I only play on servers with whitelists. Like either I host them myself or a friend hosts them. Got any more advice for me? It's looking fun, bruh. That not face a person getting their crag on. Jesproid know what you need. I put smile on your face, crag you not. Here? Sure thing. Jesproid not tell you for free. But hey, be chill, bruh. Jesproid not want money. Jesproid just want you to say please real quick, then Jesproid tell you. Please. You not hook him Jesproid up. Jesproid must hear please. Do it right, brah. Doesn't it be all lowercase? Jesproid, not sure that one time is enough, brah. How about one more time? Say please one more time. Okay, this is just a Super Paper Mario moment. Please. Jesproid, not feeling it, brah. Maybe not giving it oomph. You say it 3 times and put some crag into it, brah. Now, please 3 times. 2 more times. Definitely a Paper Mario moment. One more time. Yeah, nice, brah. Jesproid can tell you really want to hear a big secret. Jesproid feeling it, brah. So here, information nug for you. It's kinda long, though. You maybe write it down so you not forget, brah. You got tool for writing within Crag's reach. Yes. You make sure to get this all down, brah. Next time you find 3 blocks lined up, you bonk like this. Middle, right, left. Left, right, middle, right, left, right, right. Middle, right, right, left, middle, middle, oh my god. Middle, right, right, left, middle, middle. Left, 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 right, left, 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 middle, middle. That it? You write it down? You do it right. Something interesting happened, bro. This has been a good time, bro. Have a nice crag. Oh, I forgot I wanted to leave, rest in the inn. I think there's an inn here. There's certainly a shop. I don't think there's an inn, but there is a shop. Good day. How's it, how you? Is it good? What you need? Sell. I would like to sell this gold bar, please. I'll buy that gold bar for 115 coins. What you say? Sure. Oh, so good. Anything else you want to unload? I do have this mushroom crate. And this ultra shroom shake. What's that apple-looking thing up top? Oh, whoops. Fire Burst, Ice Storm, Primordial Fruit. It's like a strict downgrade to a mushroom because it costs money. I'm just gonna eat that mushroom crate. So fun thing about the low health beat, the last time I ran a D&D game, whenever my players got down to like critical health, like single digit health, I would play the Pokemon Black and White low health theme incessantly until they heal. he was playing one of my games. I mean, if you can help me find, like, 3, 4 players, like, I'm down to put something together. Just keeping in mind it will be 3.5. I don't do 5e. Alright, let's see here. Middle, right, left, left, right, middle, right. Left, right, right, middle, right, right, left, middle, middle. Left, left, left. Right, left, 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 middle, middle. How funny would it have been if my random mash had actually opened that? Let me find anything off to the left. I know that they went to the right, but sometimes you find things off the intended path. Surfing over like a desert on a hoverboard sounds like a really fun time, actually. Like, it'd be ridiculously unpleasantly hot, but like... you can go very fast and not have to worry about hitting anything. Though I guess if you're going that far, you might as well do it over the water instead. Because then if you wipe out, you, don't die. Like, I'd rather skid across water than across, loose stone. Can I just walk this way? Yes, I can. I will happily save my progress. In pursuit of the abducted Kragnons, Mario and co. headed for the Gap of Crag. What did the Florosapiens want, and where was King Crocus with the Pure Heart? Despite their hustling pace, our heroes never caught sight of the Florosapiens, except for all those times where they did. But Mario didn't give up. He knew his fleet feet would catch them eventually. Pixels, tablets, and Crag. There, we caught up to the fiends. I like how the Kragnons are just sort of like chilling out in the hands of the flowers. They're just like, this is our life now, brah. No, my horsetail, I wanted that. That is a very large block. Disappeared down a pipe, did they? I mean, if I got mad at them for that, that'd very much be a pot calling the kettle black moment. A card that catches an enemy's soul, if it works. I thought it was just being silly when I said it captured their souls. Anyway. Well, that didn't do anything. Thank you for the hydration. It's very important to stay hydrated, especially in a desert. Apparently, a relatively common thing is for people to die of thirst in deserts with full water skins. Because they just don't drink enough. And then, like, they collapse, and then it's too late. That's a tech Cursia. It is a spiteful monster that curses everything it touches. One hit point, one attack. It can prevent you from using skills for a while. But it can't curse you if you don't touch it, so approach with caution. Caution is my middle name. Mysterious power makes you jolly. Start the wheel of fun. Well, alright then. Oh, that hurts. Okay. Enemies too hurt? It was mushroom-shaped. How was I supposed to know it was an enemy? Mushrooms are friends, not food. Well, they're friends who are food, but anyway. That's a black rock. Its shape looks like it's meant to be burned. Don't worry, Thoreau. Someday you'll be useful again. Do I have to go all the way back to town and pick up one of those, like, fire badge thingies? Alternately. Got a fire tablet. A tablet with a symbol of fire chiseled on it. Attack went up by 1. Love to see it. Okay, so I've got a fire tablet. The real question becomes, what can I do with a fire tablet? Ooh, what's this thing? That's a Megabyte. It's an evil skull that soars through the skies. 4 hit points, attack is 1. It'll only take 1 damage per attack. They'll eventually fly off, so don't worry about defeating it every time. Nobody knows where they come from or where they go, Cotton Eye Joe. That's a super rare enemy, Brock. Not the first one this stream. More stamp. It's a yellow block. It'll break if you hit it with a hammer. Oh, I presume that I need like 3 tablets. And presumably also to put them in a particular order. I shall seek out the others. Rude. Mighty Tonic, potent drink that briefly doubles your attack. I wonder if that stacks with the meat thing. Oh, do the tablets give hints as to how to get the tablets? Or like the slabs, rather. Looks like there's one deep underwater. Showed it last, did ya? That sounds like Ochunks. Grublagi? I've not been made to wait like this since that fine lass stood me up long ago. You did this to break my concentration, didn't you? You like such cheating, eh? Sorry to disappoint you. You think I'd fall for a Bush League move like that? Oh, I'm afraid this fellow is terribly misguided. Bloggle, misguided, that's not even a real word, you squishy bug. Quit your yapping now, it's time for us to settle this once and for all. No matter how often we do this, it'll end the same. Just step aside. Ha ha ha, big talk for a wee little weird-looking butterfly. I'll be wanting an apology in writing, and I'll be wanting it written with your face. Salutations, Ochunks. You? Ah, once again we meet like 2 large hairy Vikings on a storm-tossed schooner. What do you want, Dementio? I don't be needing any help. You'll just get in the way. Ah, a quadrillion pardons. Far be it from me to be a hindrance, far be it. As it happens, I merely have an acquaintance in this land, and I was just saying hello. Saying hello, eh? Yes, truly, and I saw you, and I thought perhaps my magic can aid in this fight. Ah, rest assured, I'll hardly be underfoot. You fight to your heart's content. Ciao. But that doesn't sound too bad, I guess. Maybe I misunderstood that weirdo. Well, anyway, you lot are in for it now. Meet the new and approved Ochunks. So how's that working out for you, Ochunks? Actually, it's working out pretty well for him, so... Graboric, no! Log it all, Bladden. Bad enough that you beat me once, but twice is too much to bear. How can I show my face to the count now, eh? I can't. Put me out of my misery. Aha, good idea. Get on with it, I'm serious. I've no regrets. Well, no, yes, I do regret not confessing my love to that sweet lass. But no, that's no way for a brave warrior to talk when his time comes around at last. So, do it. Now, finish me, end me game. Well, salutations, so Chunks. How are things, hmm? Dementia? Look, honestly, this is kind of important. How about some privacy, eh? Yes, of course. I understand. Your honor must be satisfied. But, oh, Chunks, before you let your game be over, humor poor little me for a bit. I still think I brought cake you'll enjoy. I do wish you'd try it out for me. You crazed loon, it's not the time for... Oh, it's not the time, huh? Not the time for something that'll aid Count Black? Oh, for the Count, eh? Well, that do change a thing or two. Ah. Fine then. Eula, you took enough of a beating for today, so I'll let you off easy like. I tell you this though, you better work on your skills for the next time we meet. Wait, what about all that trouble about not showing your face to the Count and such? Hey, shut it. I live for the Count. I couldn't end the game without his say-so. Me heart is weak, sure, so I'm done with it. From now on, I'm all brawn, no brain. The past mean nothing to me. All that matters is Count Black's future. All for him. Chunks away. Ah, it is time to part. Ciao. Man, what a crybaby. Well, that certainly happened. Well, that makes as decent a stopping point as any, I suppose. We'll call it there for the night. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I appreciate it each and every time. Next stream is going to be tomorrow. The game is going to be Hollow Knight. The next time I'm going to be playing this game in particular, thank you for the headbands. Next time I'm going to be playing this game in particular is going to be on Sunday. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I hope to see you again. Good night.